can't wait for the movie theater to reopen.
Let's see what looks good. I'm so unbelievably hungry. I'm gonna have to order breakfast and lunch. Crazy, huh?
Mom, go tell him.
Okay, I hope you guys put in the comments in my last video what the scenes were. But the first one was Lorelai had just called Max and told him yes to his proposal. So they were excited, celebrating that. Number 2 is Lane just got the suitcase that her parents are giving her for her to go to Korea over the summer with an open-end ticket. Okay, so let's dive in. Finish season 2, episode 1 of Gilmore Girls, Sadie, and y'all. Oh, I love this episode because you already know when Max is in an episode, I'm happy. And he was in this because Lorelai said yes to his proposal, and I was here for it, and I was so happy. Now, there was a lot of things going on in this episode, but they did so good starting season 2 off with a bang. So, first off is, I like how this episode started, is you have Rory and Lorelai walking through the town, and you just see the yellow daisies everywhere. So Lorelai, basically, to get rid of them, she put them all over town, and it's so gorgeous. I love it so much. Like, you're just walking and seeing the thousand daisies everywhere. Everyone has one. She's handing out flowers everywhere, and I'm here for it. And so the big thing is Lorelai, at this point, she has not said yes to Max yet. And so everyone's wondering, is she going to say yes? But the thing is, she's not told Luke that she even got proposed to. So everyone in the town is, like, invested in this because they're like, oh, we want to see you tell Luke that Max proposed to you. So then Lorelai goes to Luke's, and the whole town follows her. And they're, like, peering in from the windows, like, okay, we want to watch her tell Luke. And so she tells him, and then Luke's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. But it's not really fine because then he starts bringing up all these questions to kind of cast some doubt into Lorelai's head. And it kind of works because then she starts freaking out and she's like, where are we going to live? Am I still going to work? Do you want more kids? Because honestly, they haven't really talked about anything. That is kind of stuff that you want to talk about before you get married so you can make sure you're compatible and that you guys both have the same ideas going forward. And so they haven't really discussed it. So then they go to the Friday night dinners and Lorelai calls Max when she's there because I really like how they do the scene. It's basically, they're really excited about Rory because Rory's in the top 3% of children. And so as the grandparents are, like, congratulating Rory and everything, Lorelai is, like, in another world. And she has a ring that's on this finger. And so she moves it to, like, her ring finger. And she's, like, playing with it, like, seeing how it looks. Like, oh. And so then that kind of helps her realize that, oh, you know, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to get married. Because earlier in the episode, she was also looking at wedding magazines, too, to kind of figure it out. So yeah, so then she calls him and she asks all these questions and he's like, these are questions that people who are going to get married are worried about. And so she says yes, and then she goes and tells Suki. Suki's going to cater her wedding. Suki does not know that Lorelai has not told her parents, so at the end of the episode, Suki calls and she's like, hey, we want to have a wedding shower for Lorelai. Does this date work for you? Because it works for the rest of the town. And so Suki spills the news that Lorelai is getting married to Lorelai's parents. So that's about to be drama in the next episode. The other thing is Rory and Dean are back together. Yeah, so we get some of Dean. Nah. But yeah, so they're back together, and because Rory is in the top 3% of her class at Chilton, her grandparents want to throw Rory like a kind of special Friday night dinner. So they tell her that she can invite someone over to their house. So she chooses Dean. And Richard, ooh, he was not happy that Dean showed up, which kind of makes sense because right now Rory is the age that Lorelai was when she got pregnant by Christopher. And so I think Richard is kind of seeing that too and is like, oh no, yeah, you are not about to get pregnant too, Rory. So Richard is like rude to Dean, and Rory gets mad at Richard. She's like, you cannot treat Dean this way. He has done nothing. He's a good person. And Richard's like, he's going off. And then Richard walks away and Rory's like, we're leaving now. And so later when they get back to Lorelai, kind of explains where her dad's coming from because she realizes that he's basically seeing Lorelai and Rory right now, and that's scaring him. And so the way he protects himself is by going off. After Suki calls Emily, Emily goes to Richard and she's like, you're going to apologize to Rory because our daughter's getting married and she didn't tell us. And that's kind of like heartbreaking. Like, I will say in this episode, I felt for Emily because she was actually very calm and actually really nice in this episode. And it did kind of hurt your heart, like when you saw her crying at the end because her daughter didn't tell her that she's getting married. Because, you know, that has to be hurtful because they're kind of in a spot where I think they're kind of in a better relationship. Lorelai and Emily, they've kind of been getting along more. And the fact that Lorelai just didn't tell them. And it's not just the fact that she didn't tell them. It's the fact that she told the whole town before telling them. And that's kind of what I think is also hurtful too. Because it doesn't, like, it's the fact she didn't tell them, but also that a bunch of people know and she still didn't tell them. So I really felt for Emily in this episode. I also liked Lorelai and just her excitement about getting married, because you can tell she had to warm up to the idea and kind of like ease into it. And I like that. I like my Max. Rory, I enjoyed her in this episode. She stood up for her boyfriend, like, no, you're not going to do this. And overall, I enjoyed it. I think this was a great way to start season 2, so I'm very excited. So let's go to the next episode. See you guys soon. This has been another episode of Real Talk with Noelle.